Too much fun. Too much fun. I want to talk about. I want to talk about the community, but before we do, I want to kind of move back to um, the discussion about race relations. I know that you have six boys, and we've talked about. I say to you, you worried about. I worried about one. You worried about six. How did you and your husband address race relations, or how have you addressed it, not just in the current climate but overall with your boys? What kinds of things have you said, have you had to say or teach them in order to survive this world in which we live?
Well, we definitely had a lot of conversations, and they generally started when they were like 10 or 12 years old, when they would begin to understand why their friend, who was their friend forever, started not wanting them to come over or to play. And, the relationship kind of changed. So, the real big discussion for us, and it's really going to be kind of surreal, was when Trayvon Martin um, was murdered,
Hmm.
and our older son was in Texas. And I had never felt that kind of fear
Hmm.
in my life. Actually, he was in Kentucky in school. I apologize. But it was at that time that my husband had to call him and say, son, you can't do the things that you've always done.
Hmm.
Don't walk around down there by yourself at night. We stopped wearing hoodies, and
Yeah.
that's all my boys used to wear because that's all you could buy.
And that's what boys like.
That's it. And so it was at that time, and that son was 18 years old. Uh, early 20s. I can't remember, but he was really late when we had this conversation. But with the other five, what has happened is I had to explain to them they can't go to the mall together because when people saw six black boys
Wow.
walking together, then they were up to no good. No one was going to check to see if they were brothers,
Hmm.
and that they were sent there with, and their mom was walking, back from them, and they were sent ahead to the store. So not being able to walk together. When they started driving, of course, my husband had to do the thing about, if you're around our boys when they drive you anywhere, their wallet is on the dash,
Wow.
because I told them they couldn't go searching and looking for anything. Their dad was a cop, and so he understood a little bit about how things could happen. um, so we've had the discussion about driving. They text me. Our oldest is 26,
Hmm.
but when he has to fly for his job, he flies. When he gets on the plane, he texts me. When he lands, he texts me.
Yeah.
When he goes out to eat, he texts me.
Hmm.
So they are very good about keeping me informed about what's going on. When he goes into places that I'm kind of concerned about, um, he had to go to this biker bar to
Hmm.
eat dinner because it was the only thing that was open. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh my goodness. So I stayed on the phone with him the whole time
Wow.
because I was like nervous. But it's definitely a conversation. And then what I feel for is our boys having to sit through that and having to live life thinking, I can't look like this. I can't be angry. I can't show my emotions. There's so many I can't,
Yeah.
that they said to me, Mama, what can I do?
Hmm.
And that was heart wrenching to me.
Hmm.
When your children have to ask you, well, what can I do? And at that point, I realized that, this was nothing more than what my mom and your mom and our parents had to go, or grandparents, let me say, had to go through, about where they couldn't go.
Hmm.
You couldn't go to the movies except for this day. Couldn't go to the zoo except for that day. Had to drink out of that water fountain, not the other water fountain. And so to be within those kind of mindsets now about what you can versus what you can't do is interesting, that it's 2020.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great segue into my next question, which is about community. How important is community and building up our communities right now.
Yeah. And I think that that sense has kind of been put to the wayside about how we're all kind of interconnected
Hmm.
and we really need each other in order for our cities and state and even our country to work.
Hmm.
I heard a preacher say the other day that we have to remember that we're fighting. If we were thinking about football, and I am not a football fan, I have absolutely no idea
Hmm.
how all it works. I just watch it on occasion.
Yeah.
But the point that he made was we have to remember that we're fighting for the name on the helmet and not the name on the jersey.
Hmm.
And as legislators, especially, we have to remember that we're fighting for the whole of our communities and not just a selected few. And if we, like John Lewis, and I will never forget these particular phrases. He talked about the beloved community.
Hmm.
I believe that. I mean, I grew up with that, believing in that beloved community, that village, and how I was my brother's keeper.
Hmm.
And if we would just get back that type of compassion, that type of grace, then we can do the other thing that John Lewis admonished us to do.
Hmm.
Then that was to get into good trouble so
Yeah.
that we can make sure that all of us are on the road to success and that all of us have a voice in how our state and our country is run. So I believe in that beloved community. I couldn't say it any better. Beloved community.
Yeah. Because when you take that seat, there are going to be people in your district that did not vote for you.
Yeah.
But it's going to be your role to fight just as hard for them as
Yes.
you would for me.
Yeah. And that is the goal, and that is a sign of a good legislator. And it's also kind of what I was brought up with. My mom, she may have fought very hard for Black people, but she did instill in us that it's on occasion someone will need something a little bit more, but you want to be concerned with all of your community, because once again, all of your community needs to be on the road to success so
Hmm.
that the whole of it can be successful.
Yeah. So I want to, as we move towards a close, I want you to talk about voting, and just give some tips and some things that people can do. Um, this is such an important election overall. And so I want you to speak to that and then just offer us some final thoughts today.
When it comes to voting, like I said, when I turned 18, I knew that it was time to get registered and to vote. Our children will do what we ask if they've been informed. So
Mhm.
if we began to talk to our children about the importance of voting, why is it important? Because you want to have a voice in what's going on around you. Your vote is your voice. You may not have the money, you may not have the influence, you may not have the prestige, but we all have a vote. So
Mhm.
it is very important that we use that vote as our voice. What is it that moves you? What is it that you see in your community that needs to be changed? Would you want someone to fill the pothole? Do you want someone to make sure your drinking water is safe? Do
Mhm.
you want them not to build that landfill in your community? Well, all of that is a vote. So, November the 3rd is the next election. I'm going to remind people that we have opportunities of early voting. If you're like me, you're usually busy and you'll forget to go vote. I have done that one time, and that one time made me start early voting.
Yeah.
So take advantage of early voting. It generally happens for 2 weeks. Stay in touch. Find a campaign or a candidate or someone that you know that is politically inclined and ask them questions, because an informed voter is an educated voter, and an educated voter will vote for his or her kitchen table issues.
Mhm.
Once you get that candidate or that person who can lead you through, get your sample ballot. They're usually printed in the paper, and you can Google if you have computer access, or you can ask your neighbor who these people are. So knowing who's on the ballot, knowing what's on the ballot, there are referendums, there are chances to raise the taxes or not raise the taxes. There are judges on your ballot. A lot of different things happen on that ballot. But in Tennessee, you can register online. You can go to govotetn.com, govotetn.com, and it'll take you 5 minutes to register to vote. Also, you can update any voter registration information you need to. Have you moved? Well, go fix it so that when you get to your polling place, your address on your license and your voter registration will be the same. Also, we have a lot of different ways to vote in Tennessee. One way is early voting. Another way is on election day. And then there is the absentee ballot. I'm going to suggest that our college students go onto that same site, govotetn.com, and look at the options for using the absentee ballot, because if you're not going to be in the county where you're registered, then that will be one way that you would have a chance to be able to vote in the upcoming election. So get informed, govotetn.com. All of your questions will be answered there.
When is early voting?
Oh, early voting for November. And why is my mind escaping me? Oh my goodness. I had it written down, Miss Rhonda.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
while you figure that out,
Okay.
people go vote, go vote. Use
Yes.
your voice, exercise your right. Go to govotetn.com. Go vote. That's GOVOTETN as in Tennessee.com. And you can get all the information you need there about registering to vote. If you need to do an absentee vote, which Ms. Miller just told you about, if you have college students, talk to them about doing their absentee ballots. If you need to guide them through the process, because many of them are 18 years old and maybe this is their very first time. So, help them, instruct them, and guide them on what they need to do. We need to be successful in these elections, guys. Please vote. We need a change in our communities. We need a change in our world. As I always say, I appreciate you guys coming back here every week. I appreciate you giving me all of the feedback, all of the messages that I get. I take into account everything that you say and try to make these Saturday times that we have together better each week. I'm going to ask that you also keep an ear out, because we're hoping to do some major things towards voting and helping people get registered to vote. I'll be calling on a lot of you to help me out in different ways, then we can all come together and make this something major and get more people registered to vote, get more people to the polls to vote. If you don't have that information, Miss Miller, what
Yeah.
we'll do is we'll offer it on next Saturday. It's okay.
Yes.
I'll make sure that we have it and we can give it to the listening audience.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much. Civil, thank you. It's so good to see you. Um,
Yes.
Best wishes to you. Congratulations on the primaries, and the work continues. And I
Yes.
know and pray that you will do very well. We will see you guys right back here on the Gospel Giant 94.7 FM on next Saturday. See you then.